Hello class. Today we're doing test 1-1 review, which stands for first test of the first 6 weeks. So I would like to go over all the information that we did in class plus going over the review. So here are the fill in the blanks that we were supposed to work on today in class. It says, what are the rules for integer operations? Well, we know if we have an addition problem, it means it's got a plus in the middle. Okay, it's got, plus, that's how we identify it. If the signs are alike, you're going to add your numbers and keep the sign of the problem. If your signs are different, you're going to subtract your numbers and take the sign of the number with the greatest absolute value. Okay, so these are just kind of some short general reminders of what to do. Now, if it's a subtraction problem, there's a minus in front or in the middle of it. Okay, so what do we do if we see a subtraction problem? Well, we're going to change the subtraction sign to an addition sign, and then the very next number to its opposite, and then we're going to go back to the addition rules because it will be an addition problem at that point. Okay, so for multiply divide, there were only 2 steps. Step number 1 was multiply or divide, just like you always have. And then step number 2, we're going to count our negative signs. If we have an even number of negative signs, in other words, we've got 2 of them or 4 of them or 6 of them, they pair up and they make a positive. Okay? If we have an odd number, you have 1 of them, you have 3 of them, you have 5 of them, okay? There's always going to be one left out in the cold. And that one left out, the one that doesn't have a partner, is going to make the entire answer negative. Okay, so those are our integer rules. Now, we now apply those rules into mixed numbers as well. If we have positive and negative mixed numbers. Now, they're not integers, but we still apply the same rules. So let's talk about adding and subtracting mixed numbers. First thing you have to do in mixed numbers is find a common denominator. And then we have to change our numerators to match. Whatever I did to that bottom number, I have to do it to the top number. Then we're ready to add or subtract your numerators. And sometimes in order to subtract, though, you may have to borrow. And this is the point in which you do that. Okay, then you keep your new denominator. You add or subtract your whole parts, your whole numbers, and then, of course, you simplify. Okay? Now, for multiplying and dividing, we learned 2 little raps to help us remember this. For multiplying mixed numbers, it said to multiply fractions. Again, we need to remember that's a conditional statement. The only thing you can multiply is fractions. So if it's not a fraction, if it's a mixed number, you must use the popcorn method to change it into an improper fraction. If it's a whole number, you stick a 1 on bottom. Okay, so to multiply fractions, you know you got them. It's top times top and bottom times bottom. Okay? And then simplify, of course. Well, for division, okay, it says to divide fractions. Again, that's a conditional statement. You must have fractions. Don't ask why, just flip the second and multiply. So you take the second fraction, you flip it over, and then you multiply top times top and bottom times bottom. So now let's go through the answers to our test review. Okay, so here's what I want you to do. Okay, so you look at this first group of questions, and it's just skill practice. That's all it is. So you're just practicing the rules that we just went over. So we have 11, negative 11 plus 22. Well, it's plus. Our signs are different, so that means we subtract our numbers to get 11. And it will be a positive 11 because the 22 has a greater absolute value. It's got more. Okay, so it's the one that we take its sign. Okay, 34 plus negative 13, same thing. Our signs are different, so we're going to subtract our numbers. So 34 take away 13 gives us 21, and it's going to be a positive 21 because our 34 has the greater absolute value. Now, number 3, this is the first one we actually have to do something. So here we have a minus problem. Well, minus, we're going to change it. So we leave the first number alone. We change subtraction to addition, and the next number we change to its opposite. So we end up having negative 8 plus 21. Now it's just same thing like question number 1 and question number 2. Our signs are different, so we subtract our numbers, and we end up with 13, and it will be positive because the 21 has more. Now for multiply, we've got 2 steps. Step 1, multiply. 7 times 8 is 56. Step number 2, count your negatives. I have 1, so my answer is negative. Number 5, again, it's a minus problem, so I've got to change the problem. So my 20 stays the same. My minus, I change it to a plus, and the negative 31 turns to a positive 31. My signs are now alike, so I add them to get positive 51. Number 6, it's a multiply problem, so we multiply. 12 times 4 is 48. I have 1 negative, so my answer is negative. Division, same rules as multiply. We first divide. 28 divided by 7 gives us 4. I have 2 negatives, so my answer is positive 4. And then number 8, 45 divided by negative 9. So we do our math. 45 divided by 9 is 5. I have 1 negative, so my answer is negative. And that's all there is to those kind of integer questions there. And then we move into some that are a little bit tougher, okay, where we've got a string of addition and subtraction problems. So what I want you to do in a problem like this is go straight to the subtractions and change them. So this problem becomes 21 plus negative 15 plus 8, and then this minus changes to a plus, and the negative 8 turns to a positive 8. And now we put our like things together. So the 21, the 8, and the 8 can go together to make 37. And then I have plus negative 15. My signs are different, so we subtract to end up with positive 22. Number 10, we do the same thing that we did on number 9. We write the 32 down. My minus a negative 10 becomes plus a positive 10 because we change those. This minus changes to a plus. The 14 turns negative, so we end up with plus negative 14. So again, I now put my two positives together to get 42 plus negative 14. My signs are different, so we subtract, and we end up with positive 28 because the 42 has more. And that's your integer operations. Now we move into some mixed numbers. Okay, in mixed numbers for addition and subtraction, we know we're going to find common denominators. So what I would like to see is I want to see you rewriting my problem and then finding your common denominator. I've got 5 and 4. The first number they have in common is a 20. So now how did I go from 5 to 20? I multiplied by 4. So I do the same thing to the top to get 12. What did I do from 4 to go to 20? I multiplied by 5. Do the same thing to the top and get 5. Now we're ready to add our numerators together. So 12 and 5 make 17. Keep our denominator of 20, and then add the 4 and the 2 to get 6. And then we ask, can I simplify that? No, I can't, so I circle my final answer. For subtraction, we start off the same way. We rewrite my problem, and we find our common denominator. Well, I've got 14 and 7, so the first number that they have in common is 14. If I don't change my bottom number, I don't change my top number. Okay, here I multiplied 7 by 2, so I multiply the 3 by 2 to get 6. And now we ask, can I subtract? 9 take away 6, yes, I can do that. I subtract, I get 3. I keep my bottom number. I subtract my whole parts. I ask, can I simplify? No, I can't. I'm finished. So that's how we add or subtract mixed numbers. Now what about multiply and divide? Well, multiply and divide both, they start off with to multiply fractions, to divide fractions. So in both instances, we must have fractions. So we do the popcorn method. Okay, so we take the 4 and the 2, we multiply those. We add the numerator, we put it back over the denominator. Okay, so 4 times 2 is 8, plus 1 is 9. Write that down, put it back over the 4. Times 3 times 1 is 3, plus 2 is 5. Put it back over the denominator. Now at this point, you've got two options. One option is you can go ahead and straight multiply. 9 times 5 is 45. 4 times 3 is 12. Right? Or you can try to simplify the problem first. Okay, well, I noticed the 9 and the 3, they have a 3 in common. So I can divide this 3 by 3 and it becomes a 1. I divide the 9 by 3 and it becomes a 3. So now when I multiply across, I get 3 times 5, which is 15, 4 times 1, which is 4. Both of those are equivalent fractions of each other. So it's just I divided the problem by 3 here. This one I would need to divide each of those numbers by 3, and I'd get the same thing. So now we have to simplify. Okay, this does simplify into a mixed number. So this says 15 divided by 4. So we come to the side if you need to and actually divide. 4 goes into 15 3 times to get 12, and we have 3 left over. Now I've had several people messing up on the simplify part. The number on top is my whole number. It goes first. Okay. Then I write my fraction bar. The number that's left over is my numerator, and the number I divided by is my denominator. So my answer becomes 3 3/4. For division, we do basically the same thing. It's just there's one little thing that we do in the middle. So we start with fractions. 3 times 5 is 15, plus 1 is 16 over 3. Now this fraction, we know because of division, we're going to flip it. We make it a fraction, and then we flip it to put it into the problem. So we do 4 times 3 is 12, 13, 14, 15 over 4. We change our division to multiplication, and my 15 over 4 flips as it comes into the problem. Now we ask, can I simplify anything? And in this particular problem, you can't. You cannot simplify the 16 and the 4 or the 3 and the 15 because they're both tops and bottoms. You can only simplify a top with a bottom. So all you can do is multiply here. So 16 times 4 gives you 64. 3 times 15 gives you 45. And then you divide. So you go to the bottom, you do 45 into 64. It goes one time. We subtract. We have 19 left. And they're sized 45. So 1 and 19/45 is my answer for number 11. All right, now let's go to the word problems. Now we talked about these in class. So number 12, it says on Thursday, the low temperature in Fairbanks, Alaska was negative 15 degrees Fahrenheit. The high temperature was 19 degrees Fahrenheit. How much warmer was the high temperature than the low temperature? Anytime you're comparing temperatures, we always know that it's hot minus cold. So in this particular instance, it's going to be 19 minus negative 15. Well, in an integer problem, we know we don't like subtraction, so we're going to change subtraction to addition. Next number to its opposite. And then look at our signs. Our signs are now alike, so we add them together to come up with 44. Now let's see, 20, 34. You end up with, I can't even add today. You add those together, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. You end up with 34. And then we have to stick on our label, and our label is degrees, 34 degrees. Now you could throw Fahrenheit on there, but 34 degrees. Okay, number 13. Par for a 9-hole golf course is 35. Well, as we said in class, the 35 is the number that we start with. And then it says Sam was 2 under par. Well, the under par means that we're going to add a negative number. So add negative 2 for the first 5 holes. 5 over par, which is plus 5 for the next 2 holes, and 3 under par for the last 2 holes. What was Sam's score? Okay, now we just add these together. You take your positives, put those together to get 40. Take your negatives, put those together to get negative 5. And then you do one subtraction problem of 35. And then your label on this one, it doesn't say it in the problem, but it's strokes. And that's how you answer that question. Okay, last 2. A certain business made a profit of $500 one week. The next week it lost 4 times as much as it had gained the week before. What were its losses that week? Okay, well this one we had 500 one week, so we write $500. And we're going to, next week he lost 4 times that amount, so that's times negative 4, or 4 times negative 500, which would represent the loss. And now we just multiply those together. Well, 500 times 4 gives us 2,000. Okay, it's money, and we had 1 negative, so our answer is negative. So what were the losses? $2,000. Last question. Bill and Mary Tucker's new car cost $27,350. After 4 years, the car will have a change in value of negative $3,500. What will be the average change in value of the car each year? Well, we're looking at just the amount of change. So we're going to do negative $3,500. Average means to divide, and it's over a 4-year period, so we divide by 4. So we go to the side somewhere and we do 3,500 divided by 4. 4 goes into 35 8 times, you get 32. We subtract, we get 3. Bring down your 0. 4 goes into 30 7 times, you get 28. You subtract, you get 2 left over. Bring down your 0. 4 goes into 20 5 times, and it goes into it evenly. So the answer to this problem is $875, and one number's negative, so it's a negative $875. So if you can answer all the questions on this test review, then the test tomorrow will be easy for you. Until then,